anyone that knows me very well knows I'm kind of the person that loves to break the rules and definitely have the rules are made to be broken kind of mentality, not laws. This girl does not look good in orange, but rules. And when it comes to interior design, there are a lot of rules that I feel like should just be broken and we don't need to stick to very much. However, there are a few that I think are really important and we should be sticking to. These have completely changed my home, they've changed my clients' homes, and I really believe that they will change your home as well. So with that, with that great promise, let's jump in. Number one rule you should never break when it comes to interior design is choosing a style. Most people think that style is something that's caught or that it's learned by those around them. And the truth of the matter is that that is actually true. You might actually have a style based off of where you grew up and who you grew up with. But the world is a very changing place, and we have access to more styles than ever before through social media, through Pinterest, through Houzz, through Instagram and TikTok and all these places where we can go and find inspiration in so many different styles. So the days of only having design based off of our zip code or our town that we live in, they're kind of over. And yeah, sure, back in the olden days, many of us still remember them, when you had to get on an airplane or get in a car and go drive to somewhere new to discover a different style. You can do that from your living room sofa. So how do you know what your style is? Well, there's a lot of different styles out there, and I think that it's worth exploring all the different styles that are available to you. I think getting on Pinterest and exploring contemporary style, exploring farmhouse style, exploring cottage style, exploring modern style, exploring traditional style. All of these styles are key words that you'll see around you oftentimes. But I also think considering the kind of home that you are living in is an important factor to being able to create a home that feels right. And so if you're living in, for instance, I live in a cottage home, there's only so much I can do with this home before I'm gonna have to kind of do some massive renovations on it. It's gonna kind of have to look different from all the houses on my street. In order for me to go, let's say I wanna do ultra contemporary, I'm gonna have to pull the porch off. I'm gonna have to completely redo the backyard. I'm gonna have to rip out all of the trim. I've got to take down these doors, I've got to take out any of the molding in this house. Probably gonna need to take out my fireplace, when you think about your style, the home that you're in is going to need to dictate it just a little. It needs to have a say in it. So it's not just a free-for-all here, because I love contemporary homes. We've stayed in some abroad. If you saw the house in Crete, I loved that house. I'll leave a link down below if you missed it. That home was very contemporary and I loved it. But if I try to superimpose that style upon my current home, I'm gonna have to do a lot of demo. I really am. And I've thought about it. I really have. I've thought about whether that's something I really wanted to do. And ultimately, I've decided I don't. I really like some of the traditional elements that are in my home. And I like the way that it feels homey. And so what I've done is I've brought in some of the elements that I like from that contemporary style into my current home. So if you're living in a very traditional home, you might be able to make it quite modern. Modern is a word that tends to work with almost any style. You're bringing in modern elements into the style that you already have as far as the architecture of your home. So when you think about what style you ultimately want, spend some time thinking about it and then ask yourself, can you combine that with the style that you currently have? And you might need to move. I've thought about that at times. I'm like, do I need to move? Do I need a totally different house? And then I'm like, there's so much I love about this house that I'm gonna bring in some of the elements I like, but I'm not getting rid of my house. But you might feel differently. You might be like, okay, we're throwing out the baby and the bathwater. We're gonna just break free. We're gonna get something completely new. And that's okay too, because you've really learned who you are. And as an interior designer, those are the questions that I'm gonna be trying to figure out with my clients is, What style do you really love, and does that work with the home that you're in, and how can we combine all of these factors together to create a home in the style that you really love? One of the things that I think makes me a little bit different at times as a designer is that I really like to take a more holistic approach to how I design a home. And I think of it more as designing a life. It's the life that you're living. Your home is really just the backdrop, right, to the amazing life that you're living. And for me, I really like to think of it more holistically. It's about you, a home that really nurtures your soul, a home that helps you feel empowered. So for me, I'm very, very happy that our video sponsor for today is Mary Ruth Organics. I absolutely love their products. So originally, Mary Ruth Organics sent me some vitamins to try out. I was so impressed that I became a customer myself. Loved the fact that they are certified by the Clean Label Project. I've tried a lot of other vitamins and a lot of other products out there, and I've got to tell you, these are just top notch. One of the big things was that these products are clean, and I love the fact that they're vegan as well. I also love the fact that you have sugar-free options, which is really important to me because some of the gummies you might find out there are great, but they don't have great products in them, and they're loaded with calories. So for me, I found that I just really struggled if I had too many pills to swallow, and I was just not taking my vitamins. I really love, let me just show you, I have started to take these every single morning without hesitation. You get, like this is 2 gummies for hair, skin, and nails, and they're just really cute little gummies and super yummy. I've already had mine today, so I cannot have those in front of you today, but I do really, really love them, and I definitely see such a difference in my hair and my skin and nails since having taken these. I also love their sugar-free women's multivitamin gummies. These taste delicious, 2 of them. You're gonna wish you could have more. Only need 2, okay? 2 a day, guys. Swear by the sleep gummies. These have melatonin in them, but they also have lemon balm and B6. They are a passion fruit jasmine tea gummy. And not only are they delicious, but just the perfect night's sleep. And I don't wake up groggy or weird feeling, which is what a lot of the other products out there that are aimed at this did for me. So this has been magical. I also love their collagen booster. This is great. Collagen basically, right, is really good for your joints and for your elasticity in your skin. So many benefits from it. I've tried a lot of other products, and again, kind of like with the pills, I'm also weird about the powders in that I just have a hard time. I can't get past it, guys. The liquids though are incredible, and so much so that I just added it into my daily coffee routine. You can just eat that straight up. I mean, this is a maple hot cocoa booster. It's so good. So use my link down below and my code MRO Valentina. That's gonna get you 20% off of your order. I'm excited because I'm gonna use my own code, and I'm gonna be stocking up myself because I think you will absolutely love these products. So check it out. I'll leave all the details down below in the description box for you. And thank you again to Mary Ruth Organics for not only sponsoring the video, but also introducing me to your products and really helping me to stay on track with my health goals. Next up, we've got another interior design rule that you should not break. And honestly, don't ever break this, okay? Don't break this one. So rule number 2 is you've got to have a color palette, and you really need a color palette. Everything in your home is going to look right if you have a color palette. And if you, from the rule number 1, discovered that maybe you have a mix of styles, color palette can help you pull together different genres and different styles, okay? So color palette is vital. It's really important, guys. You can't just randomly just start picking stuff up and hope for the best. I really was kind of raised like that, and I think a lot of us have gone in that direction when it comes to design. We're out somewhere and we just pick something up and we find a place for it. And I've heard even designers say that. So I guess this is one, that can go either way, that all designers do it. But I do think that having a color palette is important, and making sure that the colors work sitting side by side. I think that's really important. So when it comes to a color palette, how do you even get started? Well, you might look at someone like me and say, oh, I love her color palette. I'd love to live in a house that's black, white, and got all these neutrals infused into it. I just love it. Well, you might also be a person that just is drawn to blues and greens. So when it comes to color palettes, think about what your favorite colors are, whether they work well with the interior design style that you're really wanting to do, and whether you will comfortably live in them. So when it comes to the color palette, it includes everything in the home. It's gonna be your fabrics, it's gonna be your wood tones, it's gonna be the materials, it's gonna be the metallics, everything. If you're gonna want crystal, if you want glass, if you want metal, if you like, all of that stuff stems from the color palette. If you're not sure what your color palette is, you can go onto places like Pinterest and just put in color palette. Think about maybe someone's home that you've been to, or if you've been to a designer home, like they do those great designer homes, right? And you can go and visit them. Think about a hotel that you've been to maybe. Just think of all the places that you've been, or if you find yourself just constantly pinning or tearing sheets out of a magazine of a certain color palette, it's very likely that that's gonna be your color palette that you really ultimately love. And then ask yourself, does that color palette work with the home and the style that I'm really wanting to use? And when you can put those things together, that's where the real magic is gonna start to happen. Next up, we're gonna use the dirty word that no one likes to talk about, and it's the B word. Nobody likes that word. That's right, it's budget. Budget. No one likes having a budget. No one can get whatever they want. Maybe Oprah, you know? There's like an occasional person, they can pretty much have anything they want. Whether you're working on a strict budget or you've got a little bit more wiggle room in yours, everyone has a budget. Everyone has a budget. And the best thing you can do is to come up with a budget for your room. You need to figure out where your budget is and whether it's realistic in actually being able to create the room of your dreams. So if you aren't able to do it all in a day, that's where step number 4 becomes really important. It's not enough to just have a budget, you need to have a plan. And sometimes those two things really kind of happen simultaneously, because the client will say, I've got $5,000 for the room, but I want all my furniture from RH. I'm like, $5,000 is gonna buy you a sofa from RH, and that's one of the smaller, less expensive ones. And there's no lighting in that, okay? We can't do a room for $5,000 if you want RH furniture. Even if you go to the outlet, I still can't finish the room if we're starting from scratch, right? So we gotta talk about the plan, we've gotta put the pieces together, come up with what the needs are. Am I able to keep something that I have? Am I able to utilize perhaps some of the bigger ticket items? Can I keep my current sofa and do the rest of the room around it? Or is the sofa the first thing that needs to be changed, right? There's a lot of things that come into consideration, but either way, if my client says, I've got $20,000 to do on this room, I'm open to a mix of RH and designer pieces mixed with some Amazon finds, I'm like, let's start measuring out the room, let's come up with the pieces and let's see where we land, because we need to make sure that this can all work together. So I do think that budget and plan really do kind of go together, and it's really important, no matter what budget you're working on, to have one. And when you come up with your budget and you come up with your plan and you look down and you're like, there's a discrepancy here, you can decide then, do I want to switch out the sofa? Do I want to switch out the table? Or do I just want to save longer and get the pieces and the design that I really want? I've worked with hundreds of clients over the years, and the answer is not always the same for every person. Sometimes people are like, I'll take a less expensive sofa from Amazon and get the design done today. And other people are like, I'm gonna take this plan, I'm gonna execute 75% of it, and I'm gonna save up for the last bit, right? Everyone is different, and your priorities get to be yours and what you want, and that's half the fun, is it's yours. You are in charge, and you get to do things the way you want. So I just recommend, don't let things like HGTV overwhelm you to the point that you don't you don't feel like you can even develop it over time. But I think having a plan in place, if you're saving up for it, it helps you to be able to not only order the right things along the way and not waste money on things you don't need in the meantime, but it also will help you know I'm working towards something. And it's just, there's a thrill to me. At least I've always been like that. We've always lived on a really tight budget. I mean, I was only 19 when we got married, and we had $5 a week each for our spending money. Things are tight, okay? And I just would put mine into a little envelope and wait until it was enough so I could go and buy, I liked buying, really nice shampoos was always something that I would spend my own little spending money on, or maybe like some makeup or something. And I would just systematically put it away. And that's what I've still to this day, I still do, is just put that money aside as I save up for what I really want. So don't let having a smaller budget deter you from having a plan and believing that you can actually achieve your dream space. Once you've got everything and everything has arrived, you might realize that something isn't working quite right. So as designers, a lot of times what we try to do is we try to get samples for all the fabrics, we try to put everything together. But for me, for example, if I'm trying to save money for my client and I've bought something off of Amazon, a pillow might arrive and it's not the same color as what it looked like online. And it just doesn't look right with the color palette. And something feels awry. A lot of times people will keep that stuff. and I never do that. Be prepared to change things, okay? Be prepared to send something back if it doesn't work. Say you bought a new chandelier and it doesn't feel like it's gonna be big enough, right? You realize it's just not big enough or it's way too big, send it back. I've sent back furniture, I've sent back rugs, I've sent back lighting. I've just learned that typically it's not nearly as expensive to send it back as you would think. And it's always better to get what you really want. Maybe you take a little hit in the short term. A lot of times you don't, like if you've ordered off of Amazon, right? They've got free returns on most things. But every now and then you might run into something, you need to return it. I say return it. Be picky about your space. If you had this great plan and you knew exactly what you wanted and you started putting it all together and you're like, it just doesn't look right, change it. That's what we designers actually do. We don't always have the perfect plan that always comes together without tweaks and changes. We might change the wall color. We might change the curtain color. Like, hopefully we don't have to make those kinds of changes, especially when something's custom made. Like, it's kind of a nightmare. Like for us as designers, when we've made a decision and it's not right, but for me, I'm always gonna make it right. I'm always gonna go, and I'll take a hit myself if I have to. I have to make sure it's right. It has to be right, it has to look good, the client has to be pleased. And when you are the client and you're working for yourself, you need to make sure that you're really happy with what you have. And if something doesn't fit quite right, something doesn't work, stand back from your room and take a picture of it and figure out what it is that isn't working about it. A lot of times it's the colors, they're not working together. A lot of times maybe the fabrics are something that they just, once you got them all together, they just didn't look that happy together. You look down and you're like, it's just like, it just doesn't live very well together, right? Most of the time, you're probably, if you've come up with a really good plan, you're going to have a beautiful result. But if you need to, don't be afraid to change things on the fly. They do that all the time. There's no shame in it. It's about getting what you want and getting your dream room. And I think it's really a shame to get something, not be satisfied with it and keep it and have that sort of like resentment built up towards something where you're like, just return it. So those are just a few things that I think are rules that should never be broken. They're things that are really important. Getting your dream space is actually achievable no matter what your budget is. And I think that when you're working up with these rules and these parameters in mind, you're gonna end up with just an absolutely amazing space. That really is your dream room. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I hope you'll check out our interior design playlist. It is loaded with videos that are all about how to design your spaces. I have to tell you, most of them are rules that are made to be broken, but every now and then we do like to actually obey a few. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Give it a big thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments which of these rules is one that you abide by, one that you need to abide by. Maybe you've learned a hard lesson. This is a community of people who are design and decor enthusiasts. And even if you're just stopping in because you're interested in decorating your living room, in the next few weeks, you will find that this community just loves to decorate and to design their spaces, and we are all cheering each other on, and it is amazing. So make sure you hit subscribe as well so you won't miss out on upcoming videos. I think maybe a next one will be how to find your style. Let me know down in the comments if that's one you'd be interested in as well. So thank you so much for joining me. I will see you guys in the next one. Until then.